What's going on, Denver Bronco fans? Your team is up next after a very disappointing 9-7 season. I don't know where this team is going. Offensively, they're not that good. They're below average. Having lost Jordan Norwood, Russell Okung, DeMarcus Ware to retirement, I don't know where this team is going. On the defensive side of the ball, they're very talented with Von Miller, Aqib Talib, Bradley Roby, Chris Harris Jr. I mean, this team is very solid on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to stop you. But on the offensive side of the ball, it's a huge disappointment. You're wasting away talent of Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Paxton Lynch can't pass Trevor Siemian for some reason. So they brought in Brock Osweiler to compete for quarterback as well. I just don't know where this team is going. On the offensive line, they're very below average. They brought in Ronald Leary, who's a great run blocker in my opinion, formerly of the Cowboys. They brought in Menelik Watson to play right tackle. They drafted Garrett Bowles. This offensive line is going to be better compared to last year's, but that's by default. This team is not very talented on that side of the ball. On the defensive side, you're led by Von Miller. This team's going to get out to the quarterback. But it might be tough to start the season. Denver's a very good... not Denver. The Chargers are a very good offensive team. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up with them. It's a good test for the first game of the season. In their draft, they drafted DeMarcus Walker. Some consider him to be a reach. But sometimes in the draft, when you draft middle to late in rounds, you might have to reach for the player that you want. Somebody that fits your scheme, things like that. They drafted Carlos Henderson, Brendan Langley at cornerback, and tight end Jake Butt, who probably won't play this year because he tore his ACL at the end of his college career. If Paxton Lynch can never pass Trevor Siemian, that pick is going to be labeled a tremendous bust for a very long time. He doesn't seem like he loves the game of football. It's more like, I'm going to have fun. You know, like, if a team wants you to be a franchise quarterback, you need to take the game seriously. And in the 2 games that he played last year, he did not play very well. This team also brought in Jamal Charles to help with their running game. They still have C.J. Anderson, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see. I think this team should try to find a way to balance between being a possession-heavy run team and using play action for Trevor Siemian. I think he's going to start the season. And Brock Osweiler sort of knows the system. I mean, it is a different head coach, but he knows the system. So looking at this team overall, they should be able to stop opponents. I don't think that they're going to improve on last year's 9-7 record. Obviously, we have to take a look at their schedule. But we can't forget that two years ago, they were in the Super Bowl and they won the Super Bowl against the Carolina Panthers, a team who took a step back, but I expect to take a step forward this year. I think that this team is going to take a step back, and they need to find in the draft maybe some more talent. Can't spend in free agency. They need to start drafting for talent. Guys with potential high upside, especially on the offensive line. They're going to need to rebuild that offensive line, at least in a couple of key positions over the next couple of years. Now, looking at this team's schedule, they play the AFC West, so they're going to play those teams in their division 2 times each. They play the NFC East and the AFC East, and their 2 place games are going to be the Bengals and the Colts. So, I mean, that's pretty favorable for them. But to start the year off, it's very tough, especially with an early bye week. Their first 10 games are very tough in my opinion, depending on how you look at it. How I look at these teams, some of these games are tough. Having to start the season off versus the Chargers, that's a toss-up on Monday night. I do think the Chargers improved. I don't think Denver improved that much. Then having to play Dallas in Denver, at least they get to play in Denver. Having to play Dallas, I think they'll lose that game. That's a tough game for both teams, especially for going from that altitude. It's always been tough on players. At Buffalo, they'll win that game, but then they'll lose to Oakland. They could very well be 1-3 going into their bye week. They could be 2-2, but I see them going 1-3. Maybe 2-2 at best. No better than that. Then they get their bye week versus the Giants on Sunday night. That's a tough game. It is in Denver though, so I mean the Broncos have a defense that can match up with New York's offense. So there's that. Then they play the Chargers again, this time in LA, so I'll leave that one as a toss-up. At Kansas City, that's an L. I think Kansas City is, as I've said before, one of the best teams in the league. At Philadelphia, that's a tough game. I'm going to leave that one as a toss-up. Versus New England, that's a loss. I think they can beat the Bengals. They'll probably lose to Oakland again. At Miami, they should be able to beat Miami. Versus the Jets, they'll beat the Jets. At Indianapolis, they're better than the Colts. The Colts offensive line is absolute garbage. At Washington, that's a toss-up. Washington is an interesting team this year. I don't know where Washington is headed, especially with Kirk Cousins possibly not wanting to be a Redskin. Versus Kansas City, that's a loss. Now, based upon what I said on this schedule, I see them going 7-9, 6-10. I think their best overall hope is to go 9-7, but their worst record will be 6-10. That's their floor. This is not a very talented offensive team, and that's going to show like it showed last year, not being able to put up 20, 28 points a game, 25 points a game at least. Your defense can hold teams to 17, 15, 16, 17, but if you can barely score 17, 18, 19, you're riding your defense, which is really hard for some teams, have to do it for 16 full games. It's tough. It's very tough. Except for those great defenses. And this Broncos defense is not as good as the Broncos defense that won the Super Bowl. That'll wrap it up for the Broncos. Next is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that I think is one of the best teams in the division, but they're a step behind the Raiders on the offensive side of the ball. Those are coming right now. That'll do it. I'm out. Thanks for watching, guys.